Welcome to the IREL podcast. Are you sick and tired of real estate gurus pitching their next pre-construction deal, only to find out years later they were completely wrong? Worried the next overseas conference you spend thousands to attend will only be used to sell overpriced lots and deserted developments? Join thousands of other international real estate seekers who are looking for their place in paradise without the sales pitch. Straight from your host, Taylor White.
If you own or manage a small inn or bed and breakfast, why don't you list it on the world's #1 online B&B directory that comes with an exclusive, risk-free 90-day money-back guarantee? Head on over to irelpodcast.com/bed to get started. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 27 of the IREL podcast. I'm your host, Taylor White. I am very excited to head back to Central America when I sit down and speak with Kyle Thomas from Coldwell banker Ambergris Caye in San Pedro Belize. And as always, we'll get the true story on the San Pedro real estate scene and have you coming away wanting to investigate its local property market further or cross it off your shortlist entirely and continue listening. Right now from Kyle, you will learn why someone who started his own real estate investment company fell in love with Belize and prayed many prayers in 2008 and made his family dream a reality. Breaks down what the difference of San Pedro and Ambergris Caye is for listeners and gives us a better idea where it's located in Belize. Exposes what the local real estate market has done since arriving over 6 years ago and gives us his up-to-the-minute situation on what it's like on the ground today. Uncovers the specific areas of the island he is recommending today to his clients, and it's so close to everything, all you need is a golf cart to get around. Better details what the average cost per square foot and total price you might expect to pay, and gives us several examples of what is in his inventory and much more. And don't forget, if you're listening to this podcast and want to grab Kyle's contact details, links on buying or selling San Pedro real estate, or any other show notes, head on over to irelpodcast.com/27. Pass the fresh lime juice, get the hammock ready, and let's get into the island feel. In case you can't tell, I'm excited. Let's get Kyle on the phone. Kyle, what is going on, buddy? It's Taylor White. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today, straight from San Pedro Belize, so we can get to know you personally. Tell us more about yourself and where your stomping grounds were before you ended up in San Pedro.
All right, no problem. Well, I'm happy to be here. A little bit about me. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I graduated from the University of New Mexico with my degree in business finance. After college, I started my own real estate investment company and began purchasing properties at auctions and reselling them, all that fun stuff. This soon led to my interest in commercial and development property. And from there, my interest grew towards international property. I met my wife in Albuquerque, and at age 27, we were married. And soon after that, we began just kind of traveling around and taking vacations. And one vacation that we took was to San Pedro Belize. That's been a destination that my family's been going to for the last 20 years. Obviously, my wife fell in love with the island almost immediately. We enjoyed our time here. The people are very genuine and friendly, and the town has that small Caribbean feel, but yet it has plenty to do. There's a barrier reef that runs parallel with the island, and it's absolutely breathtaking. It's warm Caribbean waters. They're always vibrant with coral and sea life. And I just wanted to kind of show this secret destination to my wife and obviously have her experience what I had experienced in all these past trips. Well, this particular trip led to several conversations that we eventually moved us to the island. We started talking about what our life would be like here.
So Kyle, I have to ask, it's February, you're in San Pedro. Talk to us about what the weather's like today.
All right, fair enough. Well, it is about 78 degrees. It's sunny. There's a nice, cool ocean breeze. I'm actually looking out the window of my office now, and the barrier reef has got a little water break on it, and it's just a beautiful sunny day.
And then Kyle, to make us just a tad more jealous, how far are you right now to the actual ocean?
Well, if I had a baseball in my hand and I threw it, I would probably hit the water.
That's absolutely fantastic, Kyle. And so we can get a better idea of you professionally, give us your brief resume leading up to Coldwell Banker Ambergris Caye.
All right, fair enough. Well, after I started my own real estate investment company back in 1999, I began buying foreclosures and other properties at auctions. This led to my interest in other aspects of real estate, such as commercial and development projects. Well, I began investing and partnering with a few mentors who kind of took me under their wing and passed on that wealth of knowledge and information, in which I still use that to this day. One of our family trips to San Pedro Belize, my parents had decided that they would like to retire here, and I negotiated the purchase of a golf cart rental company for them. And this was listed with Coldwell Banker Ambergris Caye, and the broker had asked me if I would consider joining him to assist with running his office and managing his agents. He said that he spent about 6 months a year back in Canada during the nice months, and then needed someone here on the island when he was gone just to help kind of keep things running smooth. So long story short, my wife and I decided to take on that adventure and move to another country. It was a lot of interesting conversations, but we soon listed our home, and this was the worst time of the year, kind of when the market had plummeted. We decided to list our house in mid-2008, and the real estate markets were just in rough shape. So let's just say we prayed many prayers to have our home sell, and we needed it to sell for what we were asking in order to have enough money to move and to just survive for a few weeks until we could kind of get on our feet. So within a few weeks, we received a full price offer, and not only an offer to purchase the home, but this lady came back a few hours later and said that she would like to make an offer on purchasing all of our stuff. She wanted the furniture, the dishes, the linens. Pretty much she asked us to just remove our pictures out of the picture frame. And that's one of those deals where you kind of shake your head and think, wow, what an answer to prayer. We don't have to deal with all this stuff. How liberating. We don't have to store it. We can just basically move and have the freedom to kind of stretch out from there.
Hey, Kyle, I wanted to follow up on something. We've already said 2 locations, San Pedro as well as Ambergris Caye. Can you better explain how these work together?
Sure. In Belize, all of the islands in Belize are called keys, similar to like the Florida Keys. So Ambergris Caye is the actual island name, and that's the largest island in Belize is Ambergris Caye. The only town located on Ambergris Caye is called San Pedro. So a lot of times people use those together as San Pedro Belize or Ambergris Caye Belize, but they are one and the same.
And then what do locals call it? Do they call it the Keys? Do they have some kind of local name?
They call it the Island Man.
The Island Man.
They all call it San Pedro.
And then, of course, there's a famous song about it by Madonna, correct?
Correct. La Isla Bonita. That's right.
Well, Kyle, we are always fascinated to learn about which countries people have considered and why. Now, why don't we delve deeper into Belize as a whole, and then why you chose San Pedro in particular versus other popular locations?
Okay. Well, the main reason I think our choice was here was probably because of the opportunity on Ambergris Caye or San Pedro. The island has the largest number of Americans and Canadians living here. So the expat community is very strong. It's obviously one of the most beautiful places in Belize with the barrier reef just a stone throw away. So the snorkeling, the diving, the fishing, all of that stuff is world class. So it creates a fun environment when all these water activities are just in your front yard. Also, this island receives the highest amount of tourism for the entire country of Belize. So the access here is very easy. It's a short direct flight from Miami, Dallas, Houston. I mean, you can get here within a couple of hours. So that all combined makes Belize and Ambergris Caye a great investment opportunity. Just being in the real estate business here means I'm always busy. We have a small supply of available properties, but yet we have a high demand. So our supply and demand is pretty skewed.
So then, Kyle, talk to me. If we're looking at a map of Central America, we have Belize. Can you better explain where the island's located?
Sure. Okay. So if you land at the international airport in Belize City, we're about a 10-minute direct flight just northeast of Belize City. If you're looking at a map of the country of Belize, we're kind of up at the northern corner, almost touching Mexico.
So then the first destination would be Belize City, and then you would take a very, very short plane there, correct?
Correct. Yep. It's about 10, 15 minutes as a direct flight. You take a small little puddle jumper like a Cessna Caravan or Air Van, and you're here in 10, 15 minutes.
And then I'm curious, how big is your town?
Well, there's two answers to that question. During our kind of slower season, which is typically where the nice weather is in North America, so that's the August, September, October months here on the island, we have about 12,000 permanent residents. But then in our peak season, which is our tourism season, that swells to over double that. We'll see 25, 30,000 people on the island.
And I'm curious, how are you guys during the hurricane or tropical storm seasons?
We're actually very lucky and very fortunate where the island is located, having that barrier reef run parallel with the island. The storms, anytime there's a hurricane, the storms break against that reef. So that does all the work for us. We receive very little threat of damage. Usually it's just by the wind. We'll have some palm trees blow down or maybe some roof shingles or stuff like that. But we don't receive any of the water damage, which is historically what causes all of the destruction.
Well, Kyle, we have gotten to know you both personally and professionally, reasons why you chose Belize and why San Pedro speaks to you. But get ready, because now it's time for us to pick your brain on the local real estate scene and to get the juices flowing. We're going to do a quick round of what I like to call the real estate hot seat, where I ask you 5 rapid fire questions and you give me an answer in 15 seconds or less each. Kyle, are you ready for the San Pedro hot seat?
I think I live my life in the San Pedro hot seat.
All right. What currency is local real estate priced in?
All right. All the real estate here is priced in U.S. dollars. The U.S. dollar is widely accepted everywhere in Belize, and it's pretty much one of the main currencies, and obviously the main currency for all real estate transaction.
Is owning property as a foreigner legal?
Yes, it's very legal and very safe. Belize has a fee simple title holding system, which means that anyone can actually own real estate, even if it's beachfront real estate. It's a fee simple deed. It's an actual land certificate deed that people can hold in their hand. It's almost identical to a warranty deed, which is similar to deeds in the U.S. and Canada. It's a certified and recorded deed at the lands registry, and it's an official certificate. You hold it in your hand.
And then, Kyle, you just hit it up, but I'm going to ask it again. Can property be titled?
Yes, just as I mentioned, once a buyer finds the right property and we have an accepted offer, we utilize a title company to perform the title search and then provide a title opinion to the buyer, showing that the property is free and clear of all liens or encumbrances. And then the title transfer documents are drafted, and both buyer and seller execute those at the closing. And once that's done, then title formally transfers to the buyer. So the buyer receives an actual hard copy land certificate deed, and that's been recorded and embossed by the Belize government.
Can money flow in and out of Belize easily, or are there currency restrictions?
Surprisingly, it's very easy. As a foreigner, you're allowed to open up both a local Belizean bank account, which is held in Belize dollar currency, and then you can also have a U.S. bank account, which some people consider an offshore account, but that's held in U.S. dollars. So an account holder can wire transfer money back and forth from the U.S. or Canada to their U.S. dollar account held here in Belize. And then you can move U.S. dollars into your local Belize account, and it immediately converts to Belize dollars, and you can spend those in cash or have a debit card or a checkbook. It's very easy.
And then, Kyle, I have to throw in one easy one. What is your favorite local drink?
Well, I'm probably one of the few on this island that don't drink alcoholic drinks, but I'll tell you what, I love a cold glass of lime juice. You can't find lemonade here on the island. Lemons just don't grow naturally in Belize, so they have lime juice. And I'm telling you, it is very refreshing. It's just a good time to sit there on the beach and have a cold limeade.
Hey, Kyle, do you know off the top of your head what the exchange rate is between the Belizean dollar and the U.S. dollar?
Yep, it's 2-to-1. It's always remained that way. It's a stable set 2-to-1. So you get 2 Belize dollars for every 1 American dollar.
And then I have to ask, you came to Belize, it sounds like, sometime around 2008 full-time. How would you say the cost of living for you personally and your family is different in Belize as it was in the States?
We're very fortunate. I think there's several things here that are a lower cost of living than in the States. For example, we don't pay health insurance here. You can get really good medical treatment for very inexpensive. We'll spend $30 or $40 for an office visit, and the doctors are really good, but it's very affordable compared to obviously health insurance in the States. But some of the things that are a little more pricey are gas. Obviously, gasoline's a little higher here. But we're fortunate we drive a golf cart. That's our main form of transportation. So it only holds 5 gallons, and it usually lasts you a couple of weeks. So it's kind of all a trade-off. We spend probably $1,500 to $2,000 a month for all of our living expenses. And I have a family of 5, and we live pretty comfortably.
Kyle, I'm a big fan of golf carts. Can you talk about a little bit about the food selection?
Food selection is actually good. Surprisingly, we were very pleased to realize that we've got grocery stores here on the island that provide fresh fruits and vegetables. A lot of the things that we took for granted in the States, like Oreo cookies or a Snickers bar, well, those things are now imported items, so you'll pay a premium for those. I'm a big fan of Oreo cookies, and I'll spend $10 for a box of Oreo cookies here, where at Walmart in the States, it's $1. So those things are much more expensive. But the fresh fruit stands, you can walk up to a fresh fruit stand and get 8 or 9 bananas for 50 cents. You can buy a watermelon for $1. You can get mangoes and oranges and pineapples, and you spend next to nothing. So it's all a trade-off.
So it's fair to say that if you buy fresh and if you buy local, it's cheaper. And then, of course, if you buy imports, it's going to be much more expensive.
Correct, yes. If you're a fan of Raisin Bran cereal, you're going to pay a premium for that stuff.
Well, Kyle, you are off the San Pedro hot seat, but it's time to zero in on the local real estate scene. Give us your brief synopsis on the San Pedro real estate market over the last few years, where it is today, and then where you see it heading for the next few years.
The market here is very strong, and it's probably for a couple of reasons. One, as I mentioned before, our demand for property here is much higher than the supply we have to offer. So we're fortunate that the developers did not overbuild or over-speculate here, and that everything was built, it had sold. So our inventory of available properties was very low and is still pretty low. Also, as you know, they are not making any more beachfront properties, so beachfront properties are selling at a premium. Also here on the island, rental income is very high, so most property owners enjoy a nice rental return and therefore don't have any pressure to sell like they're seeing in several states in the U.S. where people have that bank pressure to sell. Another aspect is most properties on this island were purchased cash. Bank financing is pretty expensive here in Belize, where interest rates are 10 or 12%. So most property owners own their properties free and clear. Therefore, they don't have any mortgage payments. They receive nice rental income, and they see really good appreciation rates.
Yeah, I definitely think a cash market is more of an honest market. And it sounds like you got there again around 2008. Today, it's 2014. Can you kind of explain your on-the-ground insights on how you think the market has fared since 2008 till today?
Sure. We were fortunate that in 2008, when that whole subprime market crashed, we didn't see a lot of properties being discounted at 50%, as you saw in a lot of states where the foreclosure rate was so high. Here, because the properties were owned free and clear and paid for in cash, what happened was it just took longer for properties to sell. So typically, we would see a beachfront property that's at a good price would sell within 30 to 60 days. In 2008, 2009, it was maybe taking twice that. So properties sat around a little bit longer, but people didn't have to discount their prices. So they were still getting close to what they wanted, but during the interim of it taking its time to sell, they were making rental income. They were coming down and enjoying their property and using it. So we had a really good faring during all of that subprime mess.
Well, Kyle, you have a sold on Belize as a country, San Pedro as a location, and then its real estate outlook within the near future. Of course, you don't have a crystal ball. I sure as heck don't. No one does. But that is why I think it's so vitally important to get on the ground insight from local real estate professionals. And yes, Kyle, I just used the words local and on the ground in the same sentence to drive home a very important fact. You are not some newsletter writer who might spend a few days in San Pedro and then send out emails with hot buys calling yourself an international real estate guru. You are there in the trenches on a daily basis, dealing with local buyers, sellers, agents, lawyers, and every facet of the real estate business. Kyle, break this down even further for us. Pretend you are Google Maps or Google Street View. What streets, neighborhoods, or parts of the town are we talking about in San Pedro?
Sure. Our island is not very big. It runs around 23, 26 miles long, but everyone wants to be on the beach. So that whole east coast of our island is obviously where the best view is, the breeze, the location, all of that stuff. Our island is divided in what we call three sections. We have the north section where there's a bridge that bridges the town area to go north, and everything north will run about 10, 12 miles of developed property. And then you have the town area, which is where the town originally developed, and that's where more of your restaurants and your shops and your banks and all your commercial aspect is right in town. And then you have the south of the island, and that's more of a residential neighborhood, long time established neighborhood. And then there's some more tranquil and private resorts down there that are a lot more intimate. They'll have, 15 or 20 condos in the resort, where north is maybe more of your bigger family destination resorts, and they'll have 100 condos, or they're just larger. So we're fortunate it's divided that way.
Do you know off the top of your head about what the size of the island is as far as square miles?
Not as far as square miles. Our island is 26 miles long, but it's not developed for all 26 miles. We only have about 14 miles of development. And the majority, the main density of development is within the first 7 miles. So when you're traveling by golf cart, 5 or 6, 7 miles is a long distance.
That's a long distance in a golf cart.
Yeah. So that's why the majority of development is within that first 6 or 7 miles, both north and south. And then beyond that, the more tranquil, remote resorts, they're all accessed by boat. So the boats will pick people up as soon as they land on the airplane. They'll walk over to the pier, jump on a boat, and then they'll go 13, 14 miles north, and then they'll stay at a tranquil kind of remote resort.
Okay, Kyle, now that we have specific locations in mind, what types of properties do you recommend? And first, let me give you a few brief examples of what I mean. Are we talking about buying pre-construction units for capital appreciation that we flip? Are we talking about buying completed apartments, houses, or office spaces to generate rental income? Or are we talking about buying land to either sell as is or subdivide into smaller tracts? Kyle, give us a better idea of what you are talking about today.
Well, you're pretty much spot on. A buyer here really only has a few options. They can look at some beachfront lots, which are obviously a great investment to hold and to resell later or to build their dream beachfront home on. The reason a beachfront lot is a pretty good investment is property taxes are very low. They roughly run anywhere from $75 to $100 US a year. So it's easy to maintain one. It's not expensive to sit back and let that beachfront property appreciate. Plus, they appreciate very quickly. We also might show a buyer a resort condo. That's a nice option for somebody that's looking for a property to do something with immediately. They buy it, they can start staying in it. Immediately, it has rental income. So it makes a good investment right off the bat. And it gives them some options to use that each year. A client might also look at a beachfront home. Some of our more affluent clients are looking for a private residence, something a little larger, like a 3, 4, 5 bedroom beachfront home. And they come down and spend time with their family, maybe come with a group and they'll do a big guys fishing trip or maybe a wedding, and the whole wedding party will stay at one of these beachfront homes, and it'll have a chef, it'll have a boat captain, it has a caretaker, so you get a really good experience with something like that. We also have clients sometimes that are looking for a commercial opportunity, and there's some businesses that they're able to buy, like a jet ski rental company, and they buy that and they move down here and can start renting jet skis and just sort of living the island life and get out of a suit and tie.
Okay, Kyle, why don't we transition now to a two-part question that I know everyone wants to know, and you have to give us a general range so with some price points in mind. Here they are. Part 1, what would be the price range of what we are talking about? Maybe give us a starting price point at the low end, a final price point at the high end. And Kyle, just to clarify, I'm talking about total purchase price.
Sure. Okay. Most beachfront condos with nice amenities like granite, travertine floors, stainless steel appliances, an on-site management company, those will range somewhere between $300,000 to $600,000. And that's for a 2 to 3 bedroom, maybe 1,800 to 2,400 square feet. So that's on the high end of condos. Beachfront homes, they can range anywhere from $800,000 to $2 million. And that depends on the size of the home, how much land that sits on. So those are a few things that will dictate some of that price. And then small businesses or maybe smaller condos that aren't on the beach, but maybe second row and have a nice beach view. And those will be $150,000 to $250,000.
And then Kyle, why don't we transition to a part two? What would be the cost per square foot, maybe just for an average range?
Okay. Most properties here average per square foot of beach frontage, they anywhere from $250 to $350 a square foot. And that's for concrete. That's for high-end amenities like your stainless steel, granite, travertine, all those things I mentioned. That's going to be somewhere in that $250 to $350 a square foot. Most homes are roughly around 2,000 square feet, and that would be a $500,000 investment.
So Kyle, I'm curious, what is your main clientele right now? Is it people from the States? Is it people from Canada? Kind of break that down for us.
Sure. Our majority of clients are from the United States. We probably see about 75 to 80% of our clientele is from the States. But we do have a growing majority of clients coming from Canada. So we're seeing 20 to 25% of that clientele from Canada. Canada's got a strong market now. It's doing very well with oil and gas. And we're seeing a lot of those people tired of the snow. I think they get pretty harsh winters up there. And they're flying down here, buying properties and enjoying, 6-7 months of beautiful weather. And then they go back to Canada during the nicer months.
So Kyle, I'm curious, they're there for 6 or 7 months. They go back. What do they do with their property when it's not in use?
They rent it out. Most of them do. Some people keep it private and they just, have a caretaker on site that, manages and overlooks their property if it's vacant. But most people, majority of my clients, they choose to rent it out. So they'll come down for 6 months and then go back home, and then they'll choose to rent it out with a management company, and they see pretty good rental returns during that time frame.
Well, Kyle, this is a question I like to call, what would sister do? My sister calls you up, says she has X amount of dollars to spend. You can't let my sister down, Kyle. Share with us 3 specific examples you would show her and explain why these make sense.
Okay. Well, I definitely don't want to let your sister down.
You can't, Kyle. You can't.
She's such a nice girl, so I definitely don't want to let her down. So if it was your sister, I would probably show her a beachfront lot. And the reason is it's very affordable. Once she owns that beachfront property, it would be very inexpensive to maintain that. $100 a year for the property taxes, all she would be out of pocket. And it makes a solid investment. She could hold on to it, let it increase in value, turn around, sell that someday and cash in on all that profit. Or maybe down the road, she decides, she gets married, she has a family, she decides, hey, let's build. And then they can build on that. So it's a very headache-free investment. She buys it, forgets about it, and will do very well with it. If your sister was maybe a little more interested in something that they can enjoy right now that she could use immediately, I would probably show your sister a nice 2-bedroom, 2-bath beachfront condo. She would pay somewhere around $300,000, and it would give her a net income of, $10,000 to $15,000 a year, but she would be able to enjoy it immediately. She comes down 3 or 4 times a year and stays a couple weeks with her girlfriends or just enjoys a nice island vacation. Or let's say your sister drags you and your whole family into the mix and she says, hey, look, our whole family wants to get together, buy something nice. We want a beachfront home that's big enough for everyone to enjoy, and we'll do our family vacations there, and we all want a Caribbean dream spot. So I would probably show her a beachfront home in the 2,500 to 3,000 square foot range that would cost $700,000, $800,000, something like that. And that would make a great investment if everyone got involved, everyone pitched in, and you would have a beachfront property that would serve very well for long-term and short-term as far as rental income.
Kyle, we are laser focused on areas of San Pedro. We know our starting price point. We have an idea of cost per square foot. We have 3 specific examples, which are good enough even for my sister. Now, I have to ask an obvious question. How are we going to buy? Do we need to come in with all cash from our checking account, home equity line of credit, or retirement funds? Or can we come with a certain percentage down and get local financing from a bank or credit union?
Well, kind of as we discussed earlier, most properties are purchased all cash. They're structured that way to get the best deal. So obviously, if we're looking at a property, let's say that's listed for $300,000, you come in all cash, we're able to negotiate a better deal, knowing that the seller is going to receive immediate cash and walk away. But there are options for seller financing. Bank financing is pretty expensive here. Like we talked about, 10, 12% interest rate. I don't know many people from the States or Canada that are willing to pay 10 or 12% interest. So what we've done over the last 4 or 5 years is start to create a seller financing option. So a seller owns the property free and clear, and the buyer comes in and maybe they have 50% down. We're able to negotiate an option where they put 50% down, and then they are going to get a short-term loan, maybe 3 to 5 years, where they can pay off that property but still have an affordable payment. What that does is it gives people the freedom to liquidate some assets back in the States or in Canada and have 3 or 4 or 5 years to pay off that property. So it lets them get in now before the properties get out of price for them, but it also allows them to enjoy the place, own the place. They could resell it anytime. They get full ownership, just the title doesn't transfer until they pay it off. It all remains in escrow and it's held at the title company.
Okay, Kyle, anyone who has ever owned real estate can tell you, you need to have a money exit strategy in place even before you buy. It's something what I like to call, where's the cheddar? You are buying the property to do what with it to make some money. So Kyle, where's my cheddar?
Well, you and I think a lot alike. I always advise my clients to think of their exit strategy when we're looking at buying a property here. And they say things like, we'll never want to sell, or we'll just pass it on to our kids. But I'll sit them down and I say, look, life always throws us curveballs. Let's think of what is your exit strategy in the event that you needed to sell and not just want to sell. So that's the best advice I can give to somebody that's interested in buying a property, is that they buy it at the right price. And especially if it's beachfront, it will always sell. So most beachfront properties here, they have a market time of about 60 to 90 days. And I've represented a lot of clients that have needed to sell just because of a life change, and they've done very well in reselling their property. They didn't take a loss or have to suffer a big hit on their value. They were able to make some money even when they needed to sell and not necessarily wanted to sell.
Well, Kyle, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to share with us about San Pedro real estate. We have heard about your journey, why you chose Belize, exact areas of San Pedro to focus on, price points to look out for, specific examples good enough even for my sister, a strategy to purchase, and then what we might do with it after the fact to make some cheddar. Unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye. But before we do, share with us easy ways to get a hold of you, any parting advice you might want to share, and then let's say goodbye.
All right, fair enough. It's pretty easy to get in touch with me anytime. I can be reached at my email address, which is Kyle, Kyle, at buyrealestatebelize.com. And that's BUY, realestatebelize.com. Or people can call my cell phone. I've got a country code of 011, area code 501, and then 630-3374. Or I have a toll-free number. A lot of my clients from the States and Canada call me on my toll-free number, and it's 888-547-7009. And you can see any of the properties on my website, which is buyrealestatebelize.com. From there, obviously, you can click on anything, email me, I'll respond immediately. I've got a team of 4 or 5 agents working for me, so we're always pretty quick to respond to people's inquiries. And my main thing is just, come down, experience the place, wear some shorts, t-shirts, and just enjoy your time.
I love shorts and t-shirts. Awesome, Kyle. I have really enjoyed this conversation straight from San Pedro to our earbuds, and I hope we can catch up again in 3 to 6 months.
Well, thanks, Taylor, for the opportunity to share with you and to give you a little peek into my island life here on Ambergris Caye. I look forward to our next visit and wish you the best, bud.
I want to thank Kyle once again for taking us back to Central America and exposing why San Pedro on Ambergris Caye is such a hot destination for island lovers. I love nothing more than hearing about on-the-ground insights from amazing people, and I can't wait to get him back on the show again soon with more specific San Pedro real estate investments he believes you need to hear about right now. If you're listening to this podcast and want to grab Kyle's contact details, links on buying or selling San Pedro real estate, or any other show notes, head on over to irelpodcast.com/27. Do you get excited watching all these real estate reality shows on TV, but then get really frustrated when you have no way to contact them? Tired of searching for overseas property online, only to get stuck in email hell with sales pitch after sales pitch about so-called secrets? Yeah, That makes two of us. Whether you want to hear direct from an agent in Tiberias, Israel, a real estate broker in Valencia, Spain, or a highly sought after on-the-ground insider like Kyle, I invite you to join me. Head on over to irelpodcast.com/27 to get started.
You have been listening to the IREL Podcast with Taylor White. Be sure to hit up irelpodcast.com for more. That's irelpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.